All right, I want to talk about soldering today because I love getting abused. Everybody yells at my soldering. But I think I'll be able to impart some wisdom. So if you're doing a PC board, I'm going to do this one. Just because I got a bunch of them, we'll just use it as an example. But this is a nice PC board, okay? This is nice size holes, nice size pads, and a good quality FR4 board, and most importantly, it's a plated through hole. So when you're soldering, the solder can actually go down the hole. A lot of those Chinese kits are just one-sided, and you can't get the solder to go down the hole, and then everything becomes really, really complicated, and we're going to talk about that. But for right now, the best thing to do is if you're gonna put components on here, all right, you should bend the leads correctly. And if you want to do it really, impress your friends, get one of these lead formers. You bend the leads to a particular distance, okay? And this particular distance happens to be correct for this particular spacing right here. So now when I put the part on, you can see that it's standing up exactly. It shouldn't go down, it should stand up a little bit, and I think hopefully you can see that. All right, and then you bend them over just a little bit. All right, the top didn't change at all, and that's what it should look like. Okay, now let's go to the bottom side. Let's do a little bit of soldering. All right, this is the solder I'm going to be using. It is a Kester solder type 44. It's a 60-40 tin lead, and it has a rosin flux inside of it, okay? And if you could see, there's a tiny, tiny little hole at the tube. It's actually a tube of lead solder, and then it has the rosin flux inside, so it fluxes as it goes. All right, so I have a hot iron, and I'm going to start heating things up, and I'm going to apply just a tiny little bit of solder, and I'm going to stop, because that's not enough solder. If you see, the solder has sunk down into the hole, okay? And that is not very nice. It should come up just a tiny bit, and that's just about enough. You don't want to put very much on. Most people put way too much solder on. People are going to say, hey, you do this Chinese kits with a whole bunch of solder. It says, yeah, that's because they're Chinese kits. But this particular one doesn't require that. So in the 1980s, I was around assemblers who actually all day long is all they did was solder. I never saw anybody use flux, ever. For a decade, I saw people use zero flux. If you have a good board and good components and good solder with flux in it, you don't need extra flux. It's when things get into trouble, okay? And so some people will think you need a little bit of flux. Some people say you don't. But we're gonna put these on because that's just almost an ideal solder joint right there. All right, then we should cut them off. You should leave a little nubbin. You shouldn't be cutting into the fillet. That little solder fillet in there, you should not be cutting into that, all right? And then we're done. We should clean the flux away. Now, you can see it has flux in the solder, otherwise it wouldn't be leaving the flux behind. You see a little film of rosin left behind, and you can use alcohol, you can use IPA alcohol. I'm using ethanol here. Ethanol dries a little cleaner, I think. All right, and we're gonna touch it, and it's not sticky. Like if it was IPA, it'd be a little more sticky. It doesn't totally dissolve the rosin as well as ethanol does. I just think I like ethanol a little bit better. If sometimes you get that kind of like patchiness, where it dries in kind of a patch, you can put it on. If you wipe it off fast, it helps that patchiness a little bit, or use a compressor or a can of air. The most ideal way of cleaning PC boards is with PC board flux remover. It's in a can, you spray it on, it does a perfect job. It's just the stuff's really, really expensive. All right, so that one has minimum amount of flux, that one minimum amount of solder. It's very, 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 very low in there. This one's almost an ideal situation for the amount of solder you should have. It's just a tiny little fillet of solder, but the important part is you're filling that hole, and that's what you want. You want to fill that little hole. Some people will say watch it bubble, but you want to fill that little hole there, okay? All right, so what happens if you have a not so ideal PC board? What do you do? All right, here's a Chinese kit. These have terrible PC boards. They are single-sided PC boards, so they do not have plating that goes through. So the solder can't go in, okay? And if you think about it, if this is a hole and the lead's in there, the actual good solder connection is the lead sitting on the side of the hole. That's really what's making the really good joint. Not the solder on top, not the fillet, but the lead sitting inside that plated hole. That's what's making your good contact, okay? So let's talk about what happens when you do something like this kit, okay? So not only are the holes not plated, the holes are bigger than they need to be, okay? And the components that you get these days have a much, much thinner piece of wire in them, okay? And the wire is not plated very well, and it's usually not lead. It's usually solder-free these days, lead-free. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff going against you, okay? And so we are going to put one of these resistors on here just for fun. All right, so here is a bad board. It's actually a fairly nice board as far as Chinese boards go. So let me reach in here and I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of solder on. All right, and you can see it hasn't really done much. Now that's not bad right there. So this kit isn't actually a bad kit, okay? But if we think about it, it's not really making a good mechanical contact because the lead is actually not making a mechanical contact. It's only making through the solder. If you wanted to build these boards more correctly, you should actually bend down the component. All right. Am I getting a reflection there? Sorry. You should bend down the component. If you look at a lot of old PC boards, a lot of times they will bend those down. Everybody will complain when you go to rework those things because it's really hard to unsolder. But actually, this is the ideal situation. You want to have it actually making a physical contact to the actual metal on metal. And that's actually enough. Even though it looks really, really bad, there's actually a solder fillet in there. I don't know if it shows on camera very well, but that is actually a very, very, very good solder joint, all right? It doesn't go all the way around the hole. It only goes where it needs to go, all right? And that's really an ideal situation. Now, are you gonna take the time to cut the leads and smash it down and do all this other stuff? When I build a 50-cent Chinese kit, I'm just in a hurry. I just don't have time to do it the right way, okay? All right, so let's do another one. That one worked out too easy. It depends on your kit. So some of the kits solder really nice, like this one does. Some of the kits just won't solder at all. They have really, really bad plating, or the hole size is way too big. The components can get old. Components have a shelf life, and so let's go ahead. And I won't bend over the little lead like I should over there. Okay, I'm just going to try to goop it on. So if I was fast and I'm just trying to build this thing because I only have 4 minutes on camera and I need to get it done, otherwise you guys will tune out. So I'm just going to put a big blob of solder and that's going to say done. And then everybody will complain. Everybody will say that's a really, really bad solder joint. Now, is it really? It's a lot of solder. It's wasteful, yes. But what did it do? Well, it filled the hole because remember, there is no plating. So it actually filled the entire donut. Not like the perfect, see this is the perfect one over here. It doesn't fill the donut. Over here, I filled the donut and it's wicked up the lead, and so there's a lot more mechanical strength if you have a big blob of solder. Otherwise, you really need to do that little trick down there. Now, people also say that this stuff is garbage. You need to have extra flux. And like I said, for decades I saw nobody use flux, but yes, indeed, you can use flux, and yes, I have flux. Okay, so flux comes in different forms. This is the flux that I like to use. It's a Kester, And it actually is almost the same stuff that's inside the solder itself. It's in liquid form though. Now it's going to get messy, so I'm going to have to make things go a bit level here. And then you put a little blob of thing, and then it goes everywhere, and then it dribbles on the little nozzle, and then when you come around to actually solder in place, it's going to smoke a lot more, and it actually didn't even work as good as this one over here. But anyway, there you go. So does it look any better than this one? Yeah, a little bit. The solder adhered a little bit better to the lead. So that would be a better way to do it. But now, look at the giant mess you've created, okay? You've made this giant mess here. So now when you come along with your alcohol, you got to scrub, and 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 you got to scrub. You're going to waste a lot of alcohol. You're going to waste a lot of time and energy, but you're going to get a good thing. So if you ever need to make a really good solder joint, okay, I recommend two things. One, bending it over. Two, adding additional flux if that's your thing and you need it. If your components are crusty and everything, maybe you do need it. All right. But I believe the most ideal one is that one, even though it looks totally bizarre and people would say, oh, that's terrible. It looks like a cold solder joint. No, that's actually the very, very best one. Now there is a different type of flux, so let's go ahead and talk about that one. So normal flux is an organic product. It's just pine pitch out of a pine tree. But there are synthetic fluxes these days, and there are the no clean fluxes and everything. I haven't really used those. I'm kind of an old school rosin guy. But this is rosin flux that I've showed so far. I also have a different type of flux that is in paste form, okay? So this is a Deoxit brand rosin flux, and it comes in a tub, and it's this gooey mess. Now this is the stuff I use when I'm working on like 12 gauge wire, 14 gauge wire, whatever, and I'm trying to make a good solder joint and it's something old and crusty. I will use this. You can see that I use a lot of it. You can see this thing is almost empty. This tub is almost empty. So for really big things, yeah, I use flux a lot. On little things like PC boards, I hardly ever do. But let's go ahead and use some paste flux. We used liquid flux. Let's go ahead and use some paste flux this time, okay? You can buy hypodermics with flux already in them, or you could load up this. Right here, I put my own flux in a little hypodermic, so I can come along here and I can just kind of squeeze it out onto the board. So I'll squeeze it out here, and I'll squeeze it out here. It's a little bit harder to get it to stick, but anyway, there's a little bit. Puts a little bit more over here. Okay, there we go. Now we got some good solder going, good flux going on now. All right, so now we're going to come along and we're going to solder this one. And yeah, it's like burning the house down. And let's do this one over here, a little bit of flux there, yeah. Now, I mean, you know, in all honesty, the first one I did with zero flux is just as good. It still balls up. Yes, it may eat through some corrosion if you're having problems and stuff, but as you apply the solder, you're applying more and more flux. So that's the kind of the cheat that I do, is I first get it going, and then if it's not doing anything, I'll feed in a little bit more solder, which actually feeds in a little bit more flux. And maybe I'll get a big ball of solder, but on a cheap Chinese kit, I don't care. Time is money, all right? And so, yeah, if you want to make it real pretty, once again, make sure you bend it over and use the minimum amount of solder that you need. Have a fillet in there, and use flux if necessary. Use a good brand name solder. Like this Kester 44, this is one of my favorites. Now this is leaded solder, so if that freaks you out, you have to worry about that. But now we have to go back once again, and we have to go back and we have to clean the stupid PC board again. And yeah, okay, whatever. Also on the Chinese kits, when I build them on the channel, I won't clean anything. It's just time is money, and I just will get it done as quick as I can, because as soon as I film a video, these little Chinese kits go right into the trash can.